Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. Egberto, Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. As usual, I have a video that you guys have got to see. But anyhow, folks, I had a great show this morning at KPFT. A whole lot of callers. I was barely able to get into one of the subjects that I wanted to cover. And I didn't put it in the show for today, but maybe I'll go ahead and talk about that as well. Anyhow, welcome aboard in the house. Numero uno today is Yvette Avery Herod. How you doing? Mi preciosa Yvette in Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome to Politics and Right. AVQ is out of Brooklyn, New York. He says he's having some hyperactive cat issues, so I guess he'll be in and out. We also have Melanie Keelan. Melanie Keelan is in from Barcelona, Spain. And of course, Eric Hayes is here from Kingwood, Atascocita, the entire area. Paul Fleming is checking in from as well, Atlanta, Georgia. And we have Lee Grant in from Montgomery County. Welcome aboard, my brothers and sisters. Issues, LOL, they are mewing, running around, dropping stuff off from shelves. What happened? Is there a pending earthquake or something that has them all stirred up? You know, they can prognosticate things somewhat. Anyway, folks, we're going to have a great show for you today. Let's see. Eric is going to start off, of course, with, with Mr. Eric. It says, question now, with protests breaking into buildings, wonder if the younger generation will wake up and push back and vote against this type of thing. Those would be ones that want to live life and get an education and be left alone, huh? Waking up the people you think supports you historically might now vote them out. No, I don't think so. I think you guys have a complete misunderstanding of these protests. You have a complete misunderstanding of these protests. Most importantly, these protests are coming from a moral point of view. Understand this. We came from a country that was formed by an illegal protest that destroyed quite a bit to get our independence. We often forget these things as we try to be pure, as we try to tell our students who are doing something humane that they shouldn't do it. You forgot how we were formed. And while the protests by our kids in schools are benevolent, welcome aboard Maywood from Long Beach, California. While the protests by these students throughout the country had its genesis in the murder of innocent human beings and them wanting to stop and do a humane thing. And many of our protests from the inception of this country, not only our protests, but what we've done, were not that benevolent. So be careful when you're talking about these kids. I honor these kids. I look at these kids. And it brings back the juices that flew through that emanated through my entire body when I was at the University of Texas, and we did the same thing because our university, the university that we supported, the university that we paid money to, did that evil thing of supporting an apartheid system known in South Africa as in South Africa. We protested that. We didn't get the army and the navy or coming and banging on us. And you know why? Because then, if I recall correctly, we had a sensible governor. One Republican, as I recall, and one Democrat. I don't remember if Ann Richard was in what was Ann Richards' time in office? When was Ann Richards the president, the governor of Texas? Let me find that out. But I think it was Clements from 91 to 95 was Ann Richards, but when I was at the university, I think it was Clemens. I think it was Clemens that was the governor of Texas then. And in those days, we didn't have the autocratic type governorship. In fact, we had a very good relations. There wasn't a lot of humongous distinctions in amiability between Republican and Democratic politicians here. In fact, they had great symbiotic relationships. In fact, the Texas relationships were so good that even in separated houses, you would have chairpersons in the house, and we still have it to some extent. It may be gone this next session, where even as the Congress is the legislature is controlled by Republicans, we would often get Democratic chairs and vice versa. These are things few people know that they should know. Few people know it, but they should know it. But anyhow, so our children at these universities, I could not be more proud of them. I could not be more proud of them. It's not a bad idea. You're absolutely right, Michael Rudnin, for us to interview. So anyway, Mr. Eric Hayes, once again, you have placed ideology over humanity. Not very, I look at how Christians are reacting to Gaza and other things that I just find it amazing. Evangelicals, that is. I just find it amazing that the humanity continuously fail to come out. It's just amazing. Eric Fleming is in the house. Welcome aboard, my dear brother, Eric Fleming. Eric Hayes says Tesla disbanding supercharger team and other EV makers laying off to preserve cash. Why? Because sales are down. And I wonder why are sales down? I think you better do some research to find out exactly why sales are down. You may learn something, and you may learn something quicker than you think. You may learn something quicker than you think. All right, let's continue here. Who else we have talking? Because it seems like Eric is happy that electric cars are having issues, so he rather throw stuff into the air, turn it into and burn it just behooves me. It just behooves me. I don't know. Anyway, continuing with the program with more with folks that are into really dealing with intellect. We have Michael Rodney says issues. They're mowing around. Oh, that is about your animals. All right, what else have we got here? Michael Rodney says pundits in the right-wing bubble still talking about college protests. Right-wing bubble will ignore them when they're peaceful, which is most of the time. But as soon as there's violence, doesn't matter if it's outside agitators or kids at the end of the rope, they'll claim, aha, you see, they're all violent. You don't even want to acknowledge what they're protesting. I'm not bothered. I thank you for saying that, Michael Rudden, but I'm not bothered about these guys who try to overthrow our country. Those are the violent ones. I'm not worried about it. I love what the kids are doing. The kids are doing what we do as a country, and they're doing it very well. I must say it myself, very well. While the media would try to make it look like it's mass chaos, I think they're doing it very well. It's amazing how they cover our kids, but they don't cover the Nazis, the Nazi guys shouting, "We will not be replaced." They don't cover those as they should. But it's okay. As long as our independent media continues to do it. Guys, if you are on Twitter, please go ahead and retweet. If you're on Twitter, please retweet the program. If you are on Facebook, like it and share it. If you are on YouTube, like it and share it. Or rather, do up arrow, right? A thumbs up and share it. Right now, we don't have a whole lot of YouTube coming in. I think we're getting throttled more than usual. I really think we're getting throttled more than usual right now. But, programs like this, that's the problems that we have. Throttling. We don't say all the right things, right? All right, what else have we got before I continue? Eric says reality over ideology. That's a joke. What else have we got? Let's see what else we got here. Please, please, they are not Christian. You know what? You're right. You're right, Fleming. So give me the word that you would use. I would like to hear that. Paul Fleming says sales are down because other car companies have caught up and Americans are open to buying Chinese cars. Yeah, I know, right? You know, if you don't have that thing where you want to make to gouge the American citizenry, you buy it. Thank you for putting that out there, Paul. You know, you're a thinking person and you're a person who research. Very good. Proud of you. All right, Charlottesville is right, Michael Rudden. That's where we saw the essence, right? Check this out now. Let's listen. I really want to read this from Eric. Credit card companies are not charities. They make billions of dollars in revenue and pass on teensy tiny bit of profits to credit card users who are overjoyed to get those crumbs from the table. If you're wondering how much revenue those sources create, wonder no more. In 2019, the largest U.S. banks reported that credit card revenue generated $89.7 billion from interest, $9.9 from consumer fees, and $41.3 billion from interchange fees. Yet, Eric, you still support a plutocracy that gives these guys the carte blanche to rip you off. You see what I talk about, enslaved mentality? That's what I'm talking about. All right, hydrogen is the next big thing for engines and cars. Really? Let's see. As soon as we start going to hydrogen, you're going to see the oil companies put out commercials about how explosive hydrogen gas is. Compared to a battery? Oh, Lord. Paul Fleming says, breaking Arizona okay's bill to repeal the state's 1864 near total abortion ban, with Governor Katie Hobbs expected to sign, but the bill will still stay in existence for 90 days. That is what a lot of folks don't know. All right. I want to play you an interchange that I had this morning on my show with one of my listeners. Good guy, it's a doctor that calls in frequently. I want you to listen to this, and then we will take it on the other side. Let's go to John. Come on in, John.
Hey, Egberto. Good morning, my brother.
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
What do you make of these student protests? And I have an angle on it.
In every one of those students I see protesting, I'm not talking about the anti-Semitic provocateur, because there are very few of those. Don't let the mainstream media fool you. I have spoken directly to Mark Thompson, who was at the university for several days. If you listen to Antonia Hilton, who's been at the university for several days, most of this stuff is done. By the way, inclusive within this demonstration are a large number of Jewish students. So what the media is trying to portray is just propaganda. But that said, you have to also remember that just like those kids are doing on campus, that was me on campus at the University of Texas. So that is deep in my heart, the idea that free speech and we must protest against things that are going wrong. I think it is occurring early enough that it won't take us back to 68. But I'm interested in your thoughts.
I've seen enough clips of 1968. Doesn't it remind you of that? You know, the police on horses coming in with batons and busting in Hamilton Hall at Columbia.
Yeah.
And, but the difference is how I assume Governor Abbott managed UT Austin versus how Gavin Newsom's managing UCLA. Ultimately, there has to be some law and order. I mean, otherwise, then you have the Jewish kids and the Palestinian kids having an MMA brawl with no referee. And anarchy, you know, there's just, you can't have that in a civilized society. But I take the position that if you want to make meaningful change, now, as if I know, right? I'm just a simple country doctor. Okay. The people who made meaningful change in history, the ones that I like, are Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and Nelson Mandela. Those are icons of peaceful, meaningful change. And I don't know how that would work in the current situation, but that's what I would back.
Let me push back a little bit here, because the same animosity that these kids that are protesting are getting right now, it's the same animosity Martin Luther King got, if not worse. And the funny thing about it is Martin Luther King wasn't only getting it from the establishment, but he was getting it from some of the people in the Black community. The same occurs with Nelson Mandela, right? Nelson Mandela was never revered. Nelson Mandela was hated by the establishment. I don't know as much as of Gandhi as I did with, let's say, Brother King and Mandela. But the truth of the matter is there was a large amount of disruption with King and a large amount of disruption with Mandela. It's just that after years, we look back with it with nostalgia and say, wow, look at the change that came about. I so respect these kids. I'm talking about the kids who are in encampments, peaceful encampments. Look, I was a member of the Occupy movement back in 2010. In fact, I, along with a couple of professors and students, created Occupy Kingwood, where we did that sort of thing. Protests are designed to be disruptive because it gets people's attention. And then people are either going to get pissed for the disruption but it's going to force them to look at issues. That's why we have protests. It's not to be comfortable. If it's comfortable, we just say we put the protesters in a corner and then we go about our own business. Nothing changes. So I'm a big advocate of protest. I'm not an advocate of destroying stuff. But what's interesting is a lot of the destruction usually doesn't occur from the protesters, but it's usually the interaction between the cops and the anarchists or that sort of thing. So
ultimately, you got to have some law and order. You got to have civilized. You can have civilized discourse, honorable disagreements, peaceful protests. And like you said, marches and encampments and, like the Occupy Wall Street or I assume you're talking about Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah, it's Occupy Wall Street. But, the mantra was, the umbrella was Occupy Wall Street, but we had Occupy Kingwood, Occupy San Diego, Occupy, Austin. Yeah, we had all these different encampments.
Offsprings of all Occupy Wall Street against, big corporate interests.
Right. But let me tell you, Ben, let me just say one thing, John, and this I think is important, right? When you have your own comfort, it is easy for you to tell those that are discomforted. And let me be specific. As a Black, I always say, I am a Afro-Latino Caribbean man. Just wrote a book about that. Anyway, the thing about it is when you are the one that's aggrieved, it can be frustrating when others tell you, take it easy. Wait, don't disrupt things to get what you want. When the reality is your life as the aggrieved is in a constant state of disruption. That is what a lot of people many times don't understand. You are asking the folks that are comfortable are asking those in a permanent state of discomfort to hold on a bit longer till it's comfortable for us to make you a bit more comfortable. Don't answer that. I just want you to think about that. Because whenever you have somebody saying that is what you're saying. In other words, Biden is asking us to wait till we can convince Netanyahu to stop killing so many people. Well, as we are waiting, more people are dying. That is what these young people see. This is what they saw during the Vietnam protests. This is what they saw through the Wall Street protests. They saw things much better than we, the people who supposed to know, saw them. That's all I'm saying. Anything else, John? I got to go. Oh, my lines are full. Anything else, John?
Your lines are full, Egberto. No. I was going to talk about some other matters, but I'll let you go to the next caller, and I'll
call tomorrow, man. We're here every day. Call tomorrow. I'd love to hear your point of view. Okay, John? Thank you.
You got it. Thank you. Yeah.
Love what he had to say, but it's important for us to get it. Those protests, I mentioned something in that thing that I think need to be said and repeated again. Number one, protests are not made to be comfortable. In other words, if a protest is comfortable, it's not a protest, right? I understand that the reason we have protests is to create discomfort so that people can it's in your face. They have to sit back and say, well, why are they making my life uncomfortable? Most people of any character wants to know why there are people out there making your lives this uncomfortable, and that gives them that gives the protesters a way to get to the people and talk about what they're doing. It's not made to be comfortable. In fact, if there's a comfortable protest, it's not a protest. Okay. Now, the second thing is for those there are a lot of people, including you'd have some what I call ivory tower progressives They'll be out there, well, back off a little bit, wait your turn, wait a minute till we can do it. No. Whenever the comfortable is asking those with discomfort to just hold on some more, that is using your privilege against those. And to personalize that, whenever you ask us, don't try to force laws that are more honest, that makes life better. Whenever you start asking people to do that, let's give an example. We want a law to penalize banks for discriminating against women and other minorities. People are like, hold on. That's not going to go well right now. Let's hold on before we. No. For every year that we hold on, you put the financial pain on those that are aggrieved. Understand that. Anytime you ask the person that lives in the life of discomfort to hold on, to wait, while you're living in comfort, that's an unfair thing to do. And the only mitigation for that are protests. And, and I tell you better be glad for protests, because the next thing after protests, it's usually not too kind. So again, to those kids that are out there protesting, love you guys. Keep up your great work. Keep the pressure on Biden, because you're not being altruistic. When Biden tells you, or when the administration tells you, we've been trying to get Netanyahu to behave himself. We're so trying to get Netanyahu to kill less people as he's going. He should kill nobody. We're trying to get Netanyahu. We want him to be more merciful when he's going into Rafah. Come on, man. If you want to know who the honorable folks are, it's those kids that you see out there protesting and building camps. And as they're in their camps, they're reading their books for their final exams. I honor those kids. I honor them. All right, let's continue before here. Let's see. Melanie says she gets my notification. Thank you, Melanie. I'm glad that you do. A lot of people have told me that they don't, which is sad, right? Let's see. Donald Trump, the radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election in 2020, and we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election in 2024. You hear all those shares? They actually believe that 2020 was stolen. Make sure you vote on election day, because election deniers vote too. Oh my God. It is sad, right? U.S. is only major constitutional democracy allowing lifetime tenure for judges on its high courts. H.R. 5566, Supreme Court Tenure Establishment and Retirement Act of 2023. Yeah, we need to get those bombs out of there. I agree. All right, let's see. Michael Raddin says, the problem with conservatives saying reality over ideology is that they ignore any reality that doesn't suit them. What's the line? I reject your reality and substitute my own. To this global warming denial among the right-wing bubble comes immediate to mind, even to this day as the world burns. Hydrogen would only be good energy source if it were not using coal gasification to create it, as coal is still the leading cause of global warming. Again, you nailed it. You nailed it. Eric says, disturbing how people choose to ignore the anti-Semitism, gaslighting, and say all this is peaceful. Again, it is peaceful. Guess who was a major component of these protests? Jewish student. So I guess Jewish students are just anti-Semitic. Oh my God. All right, Powell Fleming. May is Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. This month and every month we celebrate the rich and diverse history of the Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders communities across this country. We honor them. Yes, sir, we do. And you know what else today is? May Day. May Day. Did our lady in Melanie Keelan mention? Yes, she said Happy Workers' Day. Okay, good. I was checking to make sure that you said something about that, Melanie Keelan, because we are the only country that doesn't support Labor Day on May 1st. Imagine that. The only country that doesn't support Labor Day on May 1st. It's amazing, isn't it? Why did my thing fire? I don't see that that the email's fired. Anyway, I'll have to look into that in a little bit. All right, what else have we got here? I'm continuing. Egberto, were you able to get the video I sent? I don't think I got anything from you. I went through my email last night, Maywood. Did you send it to Egberto at egbertowillies.com or info@politicsdoneright.com? Those are the two that I know will get transferred. Michael Ronan says, wouldn't be a bad idea to interview students in protest. Any happening nearby Kingwood? Nope, not nearby here, but I can probably get an interview from somebody from UCLA or Columbia. We'll see. I'll try to do that. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Paul Fleming says, please, they're not Christian. You're absolutely right. Let's continue down. I'm going down. I'm scrolling down. E2247 says, US. I read that one already. Michael says, I read that one already too. I'm scrolling down. I kind of lost my position, so forgive me. In Spain, student protests are the norm. Exactly. Now, Michael says, Egberto, as far as I can tell, that Nelson Mandela was beloved internationally, but not so much within South Africa, where they had to adjust to positive change towards a more egalitarian society. Yep. Paul Fleming says, Fox News has pulled down a 6-part series in which it staged a mock trial of hypothetical criminal charges against Hunter Biden after the president's son threatened to sue the network. They need to be sued anyway. They're a lying bunch. They need to be sued. Okay, Lee Grant says surfers ruled. Lee Grant, can you surf? I'd like to see you surfing, brother. All right, we got 4 executives from United Air sold combined $101 million in company stock after the company heard it was under investigation by the DOJ, but before the news was made public. That's suspicious. The SEC should investigate insider trading. Yes, they should. Okay, in 2022-11, Airbus reveals hydrogen-powered zero-emission engine. All right, let me clear a few things up, okay? Let's go with the science. Hydrogen engines are not zero emission. It's zero emission of carbon. But the result of burning H, which is a hydrogen, a one molecule, or rather a 2-molecule substance, 2 molecules of hydrogen, with oxygen, gives you water vapor. That's the outcome, water vapor. And let's just be clear here, okay? If I recall correctly, water vapor is actually a, warming gas as well. That's not quite a gas, right? Because it's water vapor. But it actually keeps temperature, keeps the heat into the atmosphere. So, there's no perfect solution here. By just saying, I am going to burn hydrogen, I think Michael Rudin pointed it out perfectly. If you're using coal to make your hydrogen, then you're defeating the purpose because you're getting 2 warming gases, right? Both from carbon and from water vapor. The ideal thing is if you're going to burn hydrogen, is to make it from solar power. That way you're getting a reduction in CO2, even though you got an increase in water vapor. Some of that water vapor will fall right back down as rain in the long run. So, again, the science is so important, and too few of us just listen to the narrative coming from the right-wing unintelligent machine as opposed to working with the science. Michael Radisek, Network Nuns on a Bus campaign endured for years, was modeled on Occupy Wall Street. Model a campaign that sailed a vinyl van through the South in 2011-12. Oh, I didn't hear about that one. I thought about, let me tell you, you want me to tell you guys what my dream is? Because, I really want to have people informed, and I really want to talk to my right-wing brothers in Appalachia and other places. I actually thought about getting a van together, creating a GoFundMe to get a Politics Done Right van, and started going through city after city in different states, coordinating with somebody from the area so that they will, partake the space in my van that we go around, but I have to wait to, things I was going to do that, start planning stuff like that several years ago, but my daughter got 2 strokes. And it really changed a whole lot of plans that I had as far as doing that. But that was one of my goals, to get a GoFundMe, get a van that had all the technology to do live shots and all that kind of stuff. And I was going to do it on the cheap. It wasn't going to be expensive because I know how to put all of that kind of stuff together, right? But again, life throws a lot of curves on you. And what I was going to do is I was going to start off my trip and start riding through the South, Mississippi, and a lot of people say, "What about your safety?" I would be as safe as possible, but I would go through these towns and entertain people, go to coffee shops, go to diners, etc. Let people meet people who are in the area and aware, and that I was just going to do that. But again, like I said, my daughter got 2 strokes. It kind of threw things off. So we make changes to life. Life is never perfect. All right, let's see what else we got here. Elon Musk publicly dumped California for Texas. Now Golden State customers are getting revenge. Dump Tesla in droves. That's exactly right. Eric Hayes says, what protests has politics done right with Egberto Willies been to? Reading books for what they should be expelled for, camping and destroying college campuses. Teach accountability and you won't get this. Oh, Lord. Accountability is not killing 36,000, not supporting the killing of 36,000 Gazans. That's accountability. Palestinians in Gaza. That is where our accountability needs to begin. E2247 says Ukraine starts operating F-16s after Orthodox Easter on May 5th as it contends with devastating Russian bombardment as its long await for Western fighter jets continue. Ukraine's Air Force Spock's Eli Yeva says UKR would welcome non-functional F-16 so parts could be used to repair and maintain an operational fleet. Cool. All right, what else have we got here? Paul Fleming says the Department of Justice will significantly loosen federal cannabis restrictions, marking the biggest shift in drug laws in more than a half a century. That's long overdue. Maywood says, I sent it to Egberto off the record, the only address that came up. Oh, I don't know what that address would be. I'd have to look that up. Let's see what else we got here. Michael Roth says, Egberto, there are no hydrogen reservoirs on Earth. The hydrogen has to be converted from another form. Right now, most hydrogen used the form transportation comes from coal gasification, which is extremely polluting. And that's why I said you could use solar energy and use electrolysis. Again, that's why I talk about the science, right? We could use solar energy and use electrolysis, and we would create 2 products, right? Oxygen that you could sell to hospitals and hydrogen that you can bottle. So electrolysis is one form. It's not the most efficient form, but it's one form of which to create hydrogen in a solar form directly from standard oil water. Okay, what else have we got here? Eric demonstrates he doesn't know anything again, posting simplistic lies that are below any floor of truth. You want simple? Plants don't like too much CO2. More carbon dioxide in the atmosphere hurts key plants and crops more than it helps. The familiar adage, too much of a good thing is a bad thing, applies to atmospheric carbon dioxide. In higher concentration, it is a damaged pollutant. Not to speak about it creates carbonic acid in the oceans. Oh, madre mía, por favor. Ayúdame con la gente, por favor, mi madre mía. All right. Let's go ahead and play. This is an important video that I'm going to play right now. Please check this one out. It's quite a good video. And then we'll take it on the other side. A lot to learn. This morning on Morning Joe, I saw what is likely one of the most intelligent discussions on the protest movement that's happening right now for the ceasefire. And I tell you, Anand Giridaradas and Maya Gay, I think they knocked it out of the park by educating the public and to some extent reminding someone like Mika Brzezinski, who is a very smart woman and someone who truly stands for peace as well, but making that point, unlike what much in the mainstream media has been trying to push out to malign these kids that are protesting or to have one believe that somehow this protest is not a valid protest or done in the wrong way, etc. Frank Bruni had some interesting points to bring to the discussion as well. But I mean, Anand and Maya, I think they really got to the core of what the protest movement is about. I was proud about it because back in the 80s, back at the University of Texas, we were all protesting for our university to divest from South Africa, which was an apartheid state, similar to what Israel has become in the West Bank and in Gaza, right? So I think it is important that this message comes out. What Anand points out, it's that the message that these students are putting out is likely to age much better than those who are continuously trying to malign them or oppress them. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Mara, you used two words that are so important. You said challenging, you said complexity, and then you said we have to hold several truths at once. We're no longer any good at that. I have my truth. You have your truth. I don't consider your perspective and wonder what the merit in it is or how you came at it. I don't think we need to find some sort of common ground. I just go to the battlements. And that larger culture is part of what you're seeing on campus. It's interesting to look at these scenes and think about how much visual similarity there is to January 6th. These are different extremes of the political spectrum. There's a common political muscle and there's a common cultural dynamic to both.
I mean, I brought up the sort of just initial seeing people bashing in the windows going, yeah, that's what happened on January 6th.
I understand the visuals, right? But I do think people's motive and intent is of great moral relevance, right? And if you are motivated to show up on the Capitol to invalidate an election because you've been goaded to think that
but do you
that a kind of rising people of color America is, and the gays and everybody else are coming to suppress your freedom, that is one kind of motivation to overturn a constitutional process. The founders didn't even put protest as like the third or fourth amendment. They actually put it first in line, and they were all dissidents. They were all breaking the law. I mean, starting a country, your own country, when you're actually part of another country, is the ultimate civil disobedience. It is this country started with a giant illegal act, right? An illegal act I think we're all grateful for. It doesn't mean that all disruption is good. It doesn't mean all disruption is bad. But I think it is complicated, as you say, and we need to be able to hold complexity. And I think students are often wrong about the specifics of what they say. Students are not good at setting a foreign policy. Students are not good at necessarily like 8-step strategy, but students throughout history have often been telling us something really vital that almost everybody else in the society is too afraid or too paid to say.
I mean, would you apply that same logic of your first premise that you laid out beautifully to protesters on January 6th?
Yeah, it's not the thing they're saying. It's the truth in that movement is that we have an enormous number of people in this country who are anxious and stressed and feel like they don't fit in a multiracial democracy. And as I've said many times on this show, I think those of us who want that multiracial democracy have not done the right organizing job to show a lot of those people that they don't need to go with fascism. They don't need to go with white supremacy, that there is a healthy, fulfilling life for them in the future that's coming. And I have said many times, I think it is the burden of those of us who want that future to organize those people into a different reality. So yeah, when I see January 6th, I'm absolutely trying to understand what is underneath the thing, right? Part of grievance is there's a thing on top and there's the thing that people are actually feeling and actually driving them. And it's often different.
Frank.
However disenfranchised those rioters felt, whatever the spark of their behavior was, I just do not want us to romanticize.
Did you think I romanticized them?
No, I said I think Donald Trump is. Donald Trump is.
I'm not affiliated with Donald Trump. What I'm saying is, I think all political behavior, there's an expression of putting a chair somewhere or climbing a wall. That's the behavior. And there's often something going on with people underneath. And you can't do politics well if you don't understand. I'm not romanticizing anything, to understand. If you don't understand why very large numbers of white people in this country have been convinced that fascism is better than multiracial, if you don't like get that and have that ability to talk to them and do some research, you're not going to be able to outwit that. And I think if you don't understand what is motivating students to potentially throw their entire careers, academic prospects, what's inspiring them to potentially throw all of that out? Again, you're missing something. You don't have to agree with it, but they're telling you something. And throughout history, they've often been telling us something that aged better than the people who were against them at the time.
I'm pretty sure we are on the same page here, but no matter where it happens, violence and, breaking of the laws, vandalism, taking over buildings, jumping in them, running all over them, saying you want to kill somebody is wrong.
Always
and
wrong.
Deserves consequences.
Absolutely. And by the way, civil disobedience is people choosing to suffer those consequences to make their point. That's literally what it is. It's a choice to face, it's a choice to willfully break the law in the view of everybody. Violence is always wrong. The intolerance that we've seen in this movement, any other movement, elements of it, always wrong. But it's also been overblown. Lydia Polgren from the New York Times did an incredible piece of reporting where, unlike most people, she actually went there and spent days on end, right? And she said, yeah, there are some people who say the wrong thing and problematic signs, but the bulk of this is peaceful, nonviolent protests about people who are devastated by an immoral war. And by the way, a lot of those protesters are Jewish. And so the idea that this is defined by the actions of some people who are outside the gates.
Well, we don't know exactly how many people who were arrested or taken in last night from Colombia were outside agitators or students. We still don't have those numbers. That means you don't have them either. So
No, I'm talking about the people over weeks who've been in that encampment. There were Passover Seders held by Jewish protesters in that encampment. Like, this is not a collection of anti-Semitic activists. Like, there's been a lot of reporting on who these people are. There've been a lot of interviews, and there's a lot of incredible Jewish students at the heart of this peace movement that we should not just erase and paint with a broad brush. But look at people who've actually done the reporting in both of your paper, Lydia Polgren, incredible, fair reporting. And it's evidence-based. And I think we should just ground ourselves in evidence rather than kind of slandering this group of people, as so many people are doing.
I'm not slandering anybody.
No, I'm not saying you are. I'm saying a lot of people.
They can't break the law and break into buildings.
No, they were choosing to break the law to face consequences to make a point.
I just want to, again, just separate the difference between breaking a law that says you can't enter a building and occupy an administration building and committing acts of violence on other individuals. So I just think we need to separate that for a moment. I think that's really important because I believe there should be consequences for, occupying an administration building as well. But that is not the same action as committing violence. That is actually, I believe, a part of civil disobedience. And actually, when you look back at the civil rights movement, the belief among those leaders, and I think this was the right one, was that violence is corrosive to the human spirit and also to democracy. So actually, it was an inversion of what we're thinking of at the moment. What you actually had was people from SNCC and other movements who were having violence committed upon them and refusing to act in response. That's what you saw at lunch counters across the country. That's what you saw when we saw police hoses coming out against peaceful protesters protesting for civil rights. So I just want to highlight that to say that there is a right way to go about civil disobedience that is still going to be uncomfortable, but it is not going to be violent.
But taking over a building versus the violence that we might have seen versus chanting river to the sea.
I think the difficult thing about the First Amendment is that you can have hateful speech, offensive speech, and the First Amendment still applies. That's true if the Klan was marching through Fifth Avenue right now. They have a right to do that. And that is difficult for us. So even when something is offensive, that doesn't necessarily mean that people should be stopped from expressing offensive views. I just want to be clear. I find anti-Semitism horrific and offensive. But again, I think that universities are public spaces, and I don't have the right to be safeguarded from offensive speech necessarily. I think that's very difficult.
That Mara is making very well is that there is on one side of a line, there is violence, intimidation, hate that's directed at individuals that's all on this side of the line. And we don't endorse any of that. And no one sensible that I know endorses any of that. But on the other side of the line, there is encampment. There's even things like taking over buildings, which has a history in this country as part of protests that aged better than the people who are against those protests. And it is part of the discomfort of living in a free society. And sometimes people who we perceive in the moment, I just saw the incredible Broadway new musical, those women fighting for suffrage were cast in exactly the same light. They were force-fed by the police because they were perceived in the exact same light as people on the wrong side of history. They aged much better.
I hadn't heard a discourse like this on the mainstream media. We hear it all the time on in our chats, and we hear it all the time in our independent media, but I hadn't heard it quite like this on the mainstream media, to which I say to Mika Brzezinski, even though she, you kind of had to bring her into the fold, we have to thank them for giving this platform on a program like Morning Joe. Because I tell you, it is hard with what our mainstream media is trying to do to cater the message, to try to not let people see the way things really are, but towing some line. Notice one of the things that Anand said, people either understand it, don't understand it for some reasons, or are paid not to understand it. This was a great job. Anand and Mara Gay and Anand Giridaradas, great job. As well, Frank Bruni for some input that actually I think closed the loop.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.
Absolutely. My automatic emails didn't go out. There was a token issue with the Facebook connection with the automation, which I got to fix while we were watching the video. So, guys, I just sent that out, so it should be hitting folks in a little bit. All right, let's see what else we got here. Paul Fleming says, so the agreement between Stormy and, before that he said, accountability GOP. Donald Trump confirms he told the Secret Service to take him to the Capitol on January 6th. I said, I'd like to go down there because I see a lot of people walking down. They said, sir, it's better you don't. But we knew that, didn't we, Paul? While they were lying about it, we knew that. We always knew the guy was a part of the terrorist action against the United States of America. All right. Paul Fleming says there's a proposal on the table. And as we've said, no delays, no excuses. Secretary of State Blinken urges Israel and Hamas to move forward with a ceasefire deal at a meeting with Israel president. That's a good article. Let me continue going down here. Let's see. Fleming again. So the agreement between Stormy and Trump required $130,000 be funded by 10/14/16, but that deadline came and went without any payment. Davidson on 10/17/16 emailed Cohen and at his trumporg.com address with a subject line of PPVDD, important. In the email, Davidson's warned Cohen Stormy will cancel the agreement if no funds are received by the close of business today. Davidson testifies he sent the email because the funding deadline had passed with a series of excuses for not paying. I tell you. Michael says, the United States is one of the few countries where hate speech is considered free speech. In most of Europe, including Germany, hate speech is criminalized as they recognize that hate speech does not promote free speech. On the contrary, hate speech closes off free speech and marginalizes people in social silos. Absolutely so. All right. Violent attacks today at UCLA, counter demonstrations on a pro-Palestinian divestment. And they attacked them. All right, let's continue. What else? Mr. Rational is in the house. Maybe they will learn their lesson and stop attacking Israel after this. No, I don't think. I think you missed the point if that's what you believe, Mr. Rational. What Israel just did is created a whole generation of terrorists. Remember when what did our founding fathers do when they were taken advantage of? They fought back. They picked up arms and they went against the English government, right? What makes you believe that any other kind of human beings would do anything different? Again, we have to look at history, man. Look at history. Sometimes we forget it. Anyway, I don't have anything else to talk about. So, folks, give me a call, 281-823-7747. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to shut this baby down. Again, it's 281-823-7747. Anybody wants to call in, make a comment, any kind of commenter, we're taking that. I'm calling that one more time, and that is 281-823-7747. All right. Let's see what else I have. Anything else to read? Michael Rudnin says, Mr. Rational, are you aware that Israel has destroyed over 300,000 buildings in Gaza, has killed over 25,000 women and children in Gaza? Again, like I said, many folks seem to be unaware of what's being done in their name. And of course, C2247 has the numbers for us, which says, in the last 208 days in the genocide by Israel, U.S. has proportionally killed and injured 7,017,054, equal 2% of the U.S. population. All right, folks, let's go ahead and close her down since I don't have anybody calling in. Egberto, if we can acknowledge the facts, we might have a discussion, but only if we can agree on a shared set of facts. Again, Rodney, we know what the facts are. When Eric comes in with the crazy numbers that he gets from the right-wing engines, all we can do is correct Eric and hope at some time that he will start using what God has provided between his two ears, right? We have to hope for that. But while that isn't occurring, we still love and embrace our brother. That's how we do things here. All right, let's go ahead and say, folks, I'd love to have you support our program. And how can you do that? The one encompassing place to support our program can be found at politicsdoneright.com/support. But we also need support at politicsdoneright.com/support, politicsdoneright.com/support. Additionally, if you want the specific place to support, you can go and become a Patreon. How do you become a patron? Go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon is spelled Patreon. Patreon. Additionally, you can support us by getting one of our books, politicsdoneright.com/books, politicsdoneright.com/books. My latest book, which will be coming out in audio and Audible pretty soon, Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. You can pick that up at Amazon, and you can also go to politicsdoneright.com/books, which will get you over there. But one of the best ways to support us is becoming a supporter of our newsletter, a paid supporter of our newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Please consider doing that today. And that is how we can keep doing what we're doing. Anyway, I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know exactly how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.